Well, unless they're medieval reenactors at the weekend.
Seems weird to me, but I'll take your word for it.
Turning up on day one in your 4-liter SUV, it's gonna raise eyebrows.
Is there a specific aspect of the role you're trying to understand through that?
We've had a big week. Tactics, trends, and a lot to think about. Today, we're ending on something a little different. The questions that make you freeze. The phrases that make you wince. And what's actually going on behind it all. Dan.
Let's start with the most useful thing anyone can tell you about unusual interview questions. There's no such thing as a trick question. Not one. Every question, no matter how bizarre it sounds, has not been developed in the traitor's dungeon to unsettle you. Sure, it might be wearing an unusual costume. Deep down, it's a normal question as a traitor is a regular person. The interviewers asking them aren't trying to catch you out. They're trying to see something specific, usually something a standard question won't surface. How you deal with unexpected situations, whether you can construct an argument from nothing, how you behave when there's no right answer. Understand that, and the costume stops being frightening. Today we're decoding the strangest questions real candidates have actually been asked, translating the interview phrases that mean something other than what they say, and exposing the hidden questions behind the standard questions. Nothing should catch you off guard after this. Let's decode. First, how many golf balls would fit in a commercial aeroplane? Nobody needs the answer, unless you're maybe in the golf equipment logistics business. So, what's going on, Atia?
Structured thinking under pressure. I want to see if you can break an impossible problem into logical steps, make assumptions, state them out loud, work towards a reasonable estimate. The number is irrelevant. The method is everything. A candidate who says, "I have no idea," has told me something. A candidate who says, "Right, let's start with the volume of the cabin," has told me something completely different.
Seems weird to me, but I'll take your word for it. Next, how would you explain the internet to someone from the 14th century? Atia, seriously? What are they after?
Well, unless they're medieval reenactors at the weekend, it's about communication and abstraction. Can you take something complex and make it accessible to someone with no frame of reference? That skill matters in almost every professional role, presenting to a board, briefing a client, writing for a general audience. The medieval peasant is a stress test for your ability to simplify without dumbing down.
Alright, I can buy that. Here's my personal favorite, one actually used by a real interviewer I know. Sell me the color purple.
I asked you that question. What I'm looking for is whether you can create desire around something abstract. No features, no price points, nothing to position against. It strips away every sales crutch and leaves pure persuasion. The candidates who froze told me they needed a script. The ones who leaned in and started painting a picture, like you, those are the ones I remembered.
Got it. There's a pattern here, right? The strange questions is a vehicle for something observable and specific. Know that, and you'll be curious instead of frightened. Interviewers have their own dialect. If you don't speak it, you can walk out feeling great about a role that should have raised several flags. Let's go through the classics. We're a family here. Warm, inclusive. Sounds lovely. Atia?
Yes, it can mean exactly that, a genuinely close team. But it can also mean the boundaries between work and personal time are blurry, and saying no feels disloyal. Ask a follow-up. How does the team handle periods of high pressure? The answer will tell you which kind of family you're joining.
This role is what you make of it.
Again, could mean genuine autonomy, which is brilliant if you want it. It can also say, we haven't bothered to properly define it, and you'll spend your first 3 months figuring out what you're supposed to be doing. Ask, what does success look like at 6 months? If they look vague, like they couldn't care less, you have your answer.
We move fast here.
Yep. Could mean genuinely dynamic. could also be a sign you need to move fast out of that door. This can often mask chaotic and under-resourced. Ask, what does onboarding look like for this role? A company that moves fast but has thought about integrating new people is very different from one that just throws you in.
You'd be reporting into a very collaborative leadership team.
Collaborative is a virtue, but sometimes it means decisions take forever and nobody is accountable for outcomes. Ask, how does the leadership team make decisions when there's disagreement? Decisive collaboration is real. Collaboration as a substitute for leadership is something else entirely.
None of these are automatically red flags. Context matters. But knowing how to probe them calmly with a good follow-up separates candidates who find out what they're walking into from those who discover it on day 30. There's a third category, perfectly normal questions doing something specific underneath. These are the ones most candidates answer at face value and miss the real point entirely. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
It's not a career planning question, it's a flight risk assessment. Are you going to leave in 18 months? Are you using this role as a stepping stone? The answer they want is evidence this role fits into a coherent career journey. Just proof you're not disappearing the moment something shinier comes along.
What's your biggest weakness? This one is so overcoached, most interviewers have stopped believing the answers. But they still ask, because they're testing self-awareness, not the weakness itself.
Exactly. Whether you know yourself well enough to name something real and whether you've done anything about it. I sometimes take on too much is not a weakness, so don't use it. A genuine weakness tells me 3 things. You're honest, self-aware, and probably coachable. 3 qualities I most want in a hire. The polished non-answer tells me the opposite.
So, what's yours?
Aside from saying yes to you, too much? Okay. I move fast and expect others to keep up. I've learned to pause and checked whether I've actually brought people with me or just assumed they're on board. I don't always get that right.
Very true. You should work on that. Last one. Why are you leaving your current role?
Real question. Are you running away from something or towards something? Candidates who lead with what they're moving towards, a specific challenge, something this role offers, are far more compelling than those whose answers are a list of complaints, however justified.
Even with everything we've covered this week, there'll be a moment in some interview where a question lands and you have genuinely nothing. Blank. That's not failure, that's human. What matters most is what you do next. Hatya?
Thinking out loud is often the right answer to an unusual question. Not, I don't know, but I haven't encountered that directly, so let me think through it. Then actually do it, in front of them. The process of watching you construct an answer from nothing is frequently more useful than the answer itself. Being able to navigate uncertainty rather than pretend it doesn't exist is a huge skill.
We covered buying time on Tuesday. 3 tactics for giving yourself a breath without it showing. All apply here, but for the genuinely strange question, there's one more move. Ask what prompted it. Is there a specific aspect of the role you're trying to understand through that?
Yes, that's not deflection, it's dialogue. It turns blankness into a conversation.
Every interview ends the same way. Do you have any questions for us? And most candidates either freeze, ask something they could have Googled, or recite a question the interviewer has already answered. Can we do better? Of course we can. On Tuesday, we talked about weaving questions into your answers, turning it into a real conversation rather than a one-way assessment. If you do that, something useful happens. Most of your questions get answered naturally along the way, so the closing question isn't a fallback. It's the one genuinely perceptive thing you want an answer to, and they'll remember you by.
When a candidate asks me something that could have only come from our specific conversation, something showing they've been genuinely listening and thinking, it stays with me. They couldn't rehearse that.
Something like, you mentioned the team is at a pivot point with how it measures success. How are you thinking about what good looks like in year 2 versus year?
Exactly. That question couldn't have come from anyone else, in any other interview. That's exactly where you want to be.
Last question from me. Should I have one in my back pocket? And can I ask about salary and benefits?
Always have one prepared. As for benefits, I'm in the camp that it is acceptable, but not salary. And don't ask something you could have got by reading the JD. Make it specific to you. I cycle to work. Do you make provisions for that? That works, but only if you genuinely do. Turning up on day one in your 4-liter SUV, it's gonna raise eyebrows.
Yeah, and imagine they purpose-built a shower block just for you. Ouch. Atia, thank you as ever. So, strange questions decoded, interview language translated, the questions behind the questions laid bare. None of it's designed to trip you up. It's designed to help them understand you. Would you appreciate that? The whole thing gets a lot less frightening and a lot more interesting.
And that's a wrap on the week. From managing nerves on Monday to decoding the strangest questions on Friday. You've now got the full toolkit. See you next week.